British Airways is an airline that always seems to carry a negative reputation, with complaints about everything from vile food to indifferent service. The airline may just have turned a corner though, having introduced a brand new Club Suites business class product a few years ago, and on this flight from Toronto to London, I was excited to finally give it a try and finally find out for myself if British Airways is as bad as they say. Obviously, it's not the tallest door in the world. It actually doesn't come cheap. Moment of truth. Now, not only is this British Airways business class, but it's also the Airbus A350 Club Suites with the doors, British Airways' newest product. So with this one, we'll really get to see if British Airways is as bad as they say, or if it's actually pretty good. Now, if you're flying British Airways business class out of Toronto Pearson, you get access to the Plaza Premium Landmark Lounge, which is newly renovated and looks really nice on the inside. And actually, if you're a business class or first class passenger with British Airways, you have this special section of its own, which has some nicer food and drink as well. So it's a pretty good experience before you go and catch your flight. Got some nice champagne here as the welcome drink, and first impressions of British Airways Club Suites. It's a quite nice look in here. It's a very similar feel to other reverse herringbones like Air Canada, WestJet, Etihad that I've flown on, but I'm keen to experience more of this and see what sets it apart. Let's take a look around the seat features here on British Airways A350 Club Suites. To start off, the seat itself is dressed up with this very elegant black upholstery, with a few white stitches dotted around adding to the overall look. Then on the opposite side, you've got the entertainment screen and the footwell underneath. Over by the windows, you've got no less than 3 different storage compartments. One that's relatively deep with the charging ports within, one that's more shallow, and then a third one that has a door that opens up. You've got your seat controls within easy reach to maneuver your seat into any position, the remote entertainment controller right here, and lastly, the tray table that slides out from underneath the entertainment screen and can fold out into place. Overall, this seat reminded me a lot of the standard reverse herringbone business class seats out there, just like what you'll find on Air Canada or WestJet, except with a special extra feature that we'll take a look at later on. Honestly, I know what people have been saying about British Airways business class, but so far, it's not bad. All right, here we've got our amenity kit for British Airways business class. It's by The White Company based out of London. Let's take a look inside at what we've got here. Looks like primary items. You've got your eye shades and a pair of socks, your lip balm right here, dental kits, earplugs, some more skincare items, and last but not least, gentle moisturizer. All right, we've got a nice menu here. I've ordered from the cocktail menu Johnny Ginger, premium whiskey, orange juice, and ginger ale served over ice and a slice. So I'm really curious to give that a try. And then for dinner, I'm thinking I'll go for the braised beef short rib. That's always a pretty reliable indicator, judge of the food quality. And given the expectations coming in, I'm really looking to see if this is actually going to taste good or if it's going to be just mediocre. For the appetizer, I had the smoked salmon dish, which was light and refreshing with just the right amount of moisture. All right, we've got the braised beef short rib here. Moment of truth. Let's find out how the food is on British Airways business class. It's tender and juicy. Good amount of sauce. Actually quite delicious. Now, as we're digging into this pretty delicious meal over here, you might be wondering, how much does this whole experience actually cost? British Airways business class actually doesn't come cheap. You can see here that it costs up to $6,000, maybe even $7,000. But if you're curious how I actually managed to score this seat on British Airways business class for a fraction of the price without paying anywhere near that price point, make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I'll share with you my tricks for getting this flight for a fraction of the price as we near our arrival in London. And to wrap up the meal, we had the lemon meringue tarts as well as a cheese plate, both of which were just alright, but not too much special to write home about. Overall, it tasted pretty good and got the meal off to a great start. Okay, we've wrapped up the meal service and I've got myself a cup of black tea to enjoy afterwards to wash it all down. That's one of my favorites when flying on a plane. But now it's time to find out one of the standout features of British Airways Club Suites, especially on this newer product, and that's this door right here. extra privacy compared to the regular reverse herringbone seats. Let's close it up. Now with the door closed, it does add another layer of privacy when you're sitting here in the suite. Obviously, it's not the tallest door in the world, so you can still kind of look over, and if somebody's walking by, they can look over as well. But it's just that one extra layer of separation between your seat and the cabin. And overall, so far, I have to say, with British Airways business class, between the seat, the food, and this privacy door, it's been exceeding my expectations so far. All right, with these transatlantic flights from East Coast to London, there's really not a lot of time to sleep because after the meal service, there's about 3 hours of the flight left maybe. So we'll be lucky if we get about 2 hours of sleep, just a little bit of a nap basically before we land, and then we'll have to figure out how we get some rest afterwards during the rest of the day. And you know, one of the good things about having a relatively empty business class cabin is that if there's an empty seat next to you, you typically can use it for the bed and keep your seat upright back at your own seat and keep all your stuff just spread out over there. So no time to waste. Let's test out how comfortable this bed actually is in terms of sleep quality. Good night. All right, now that we're about to make a landing into London Heathrow, it's about 6 a.m. local time. Let's talk about how I actually managed to book this flight at a fraction of the price compared to the retail. This flight would normally cost about $6,000 or $7,000, but I managed to pay only around $300 out of pocket, and for the rest, I used points. But it's actually quite interesting which points you should use to optimally book British Airways business class. After all, British Airways is part of the One World Alliance, and you can use any One World points currency to book British Airways business class. But if you were to use British Airways' own points, or say American Airlines or Alaska Airlines, you'd end up paying about $1,000 in surcharges in addition to your points. So the best program to use to book British Airways is actually going to be Cathay Pacific Asia Miles. In this case, I paid 61,000 Asia Miles plus about only $300 to get myself this seat right here on British Airways Club Suites. So now you know, for the next time you're trying to book British Airways, there's one program out of all the One World programs that you should focus on. That's going to be Cathay Pacific Asia Miles. If you don't have Asia Miles, they're a transfer partner of American Express in both Canada and the US, and that's a great way to rack up Asia Miles so that you too can experience British Airways Club Suites for yourself. So now that we've landed in London on British Airways business class, I do wonder how this experience compares against the UK's other airline, Virgin Atlantic. You can check out this video right here to watch Virgin Atlantic upper class and see how the two UK airlines compare, and then let me know in the comments below which one you think is better.